Why? It just cut out, it just stopped. Honestly. So stupid. Radio. And I'm pretty sure it is. Just stopped. Why did it stop? Why did it stop? There we go. Yeah, I don't know why that happened, folks. It just... PlayStation was like, nah, bro. I'm gonna, like, disconnect you from the server for like a millisecond. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Anyway, hopefully we won't have any more hiccups and we can continue on with the stream. Hopefully uninterrupted. Well, I say hopefully. Don't know what PSN is like these days. And we don't know what Codemasters are like these days. This game has quite a few bugs in it, and hopefully some of those bugs just stay away from us. They do cost drivers quite a bit. But we're going to let Rhythms take us on board a lap around here at Silverstone. He's halfway through. He's heading through Woodcote now. That's one of the fantastic things about Silverstone, is the fact that all the corners are named. I don't have to remember corner number. It's great. I just have to remember corner names. Coming through Maggots and Beckett's, heading into Chapel, 6th gear down to 5th gear. Gets on the exit very nicely, opens DRS. Purple in Sector 2. Coming down the Hangar Straight, heading into Stowe. One of the few places on this racetrack we're going to see plenty of action at. As it comes after a DRS zone, you've got a heavy braking point as well. It often lends itself to some pretty good overtaking. Heading through Vale, then into Club Corner, the final corner on the racetrack. He does a 24.863. A very nice time from the German. He puts himself on pole position by about 4.5 tenths of a second. No, actually 4 tenths of a second. No, as ACW now obliterates P2, he jumps up. He does a 25 flat. ACSC in the Renault, the Frenchman, does a 24.7. Now I talk about how good the racing is here in real life. Another nice thing about this racetrack is that this racetrack is used as I guess a sort of test track for Race Spec Esports. In the form that you have to fill out at the beginning of the season, you have to send in a time trial time from this very track. So it will come in as one of the requirements. You have to put in your best time trial time while driving a Mercedes-Benz car around Silverstone in the dry. So all of these guys know this racetrack pretty well. It's not going to be about it's their favourite racetrack or something along those lines, because everyone knows this track pretty well. Everyone knows where the apexes are. Everyone knows where the braking points are. So it's going to be about consistency rather than outright pace that will be the dictating factor, I feel, in this race. As Plebs jumps up to the top of the leaderboard with a 24.6. So the track is evolving. We're 12 minutes into the session. The guys behind is getting quicker and quicker and quicker. Shiru in the McLaren. Whereabouts are you coming through? You're coming through Luffield, heading up to Woodcote onto the old pit straight. If people remember that, pre-2011, I'm pretty sure it's pre-2011. This used to be the Lioldi pit straight heading into Cops Corner. Oh, dearie me, that's going to be an invalidation. There we go. I love Cops Corner. I absolutely love it. I find it one of the best corners in Formula 1. Find the 50-meter board, you just turn hard right. The car just sticks. Don't need to lift. Or sometimes you do if you just miss an apex, but if you get it right, it's absolutely fantastic. The trouble is when it gets into the intermediate and wet conditions around that corner, a bit like turn 10 at France at Circuit Paul Ricard. It's the sort of corner where it's a bit of a nothing corner in the dry. Just take it flat out and you move on. In the wet though, it becomes a complete nightmare. So hopefully the wet weather can stay away. Hopefully. But it is the UK, so weather, there's a big question mark over weather. Hello, Banana. Hopefully the stream could just stay online. I don't know why it just cut out. It just stopped. Because, lol, why not? Star is born on the soft tyre. I must have it on best, I do. On fitted. Everyone's on the softs. Kind of expect that. I'd say soft to medium racetrack, I remember. And the softs really do last around here. As I experienced in Pacific Tier 3 back on Tuesday. I did a medium to soft strategy and I came in lap 13 of 26 halfway through the race on the medium tyre, slapped on the softs and went to the end, and they felt perfectly fine as the Star is Born jumps up to P2 with a 24/7. So you can really stretch the soft tyre around here. Tyre degradation isn't too much of a problem. So strategies are going to be interesting. We're going to see a lot of undercutting, I imagine, around here. Fresh tyres are quite powerful in this game. So I imagine, particularly the guys towards the front, if there's a battle pack going on, I expect to see a bit of undercutting here and there. Is that Kush in the Alfa Romeo coming through the most legendary part of the circuit, the Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel complex. It's almost been here since the very beginning of the circuit. It's a bit more wiggly than what it once was. It used to be just 3 corners, now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corners. So, but still, coming through Vale into Club, you'll come across the line and do a 24.3, an awesome lap time. He's about 3/10 clear, 3.5 clear of Plebs. But again, track evolution is going to be a very important factor. Star is Born's coming in, Rhythm's on a flyer. We'll have a look at the start of the racetrack. He's coming into the loop. A very important corner as it dictates the run through Aintree, which is turn 5 here, and down the Wellington Straight heading into Brooklyn. So the loop, turn 4, is a very important corner. The exit is very important. Heading through Brooklyn, you come into Luffield. It's now a singular right-hander. Back in the old days, it used to be a double right-hander. Luffield's a very important corner because it dictates a run through turn 8 and onto the old pitch straight. And realistically speaking, it also dictates a run through Cox and Maggots and Beckett's because it's all flat out. As ACW jumps to the top of the table now, beating Isaac Kush by 0.02 of a second, so it's very close. Heading through Chapel onto the Hangar Straight. He's up by 0.3 of a second, so he's aiming at a 24.5, which will put him up to P3. Through Stowe. Coming out of Stowe, 7th gear. Heading into Vale, down to 3rd, down to 2nd even. Short shifts again. No, he uses all of 3rd, interesting. Through the final corner and crosses the line and indeed jumps up to 3rd place, a 1 minute 24.386. German definitely in a good flow tonight, at least for qualifying. Unfortunately, you don't score any points in quali. It all comes down to the race. ACSC, the Frenchman in the Renault, is on a 3rd gear. Uses all of 3rd, 5th, 6th gear across the line. Does a 24.6, improves by a 1/10.5. But at the moment, he's a bit over 0.2 behind Rhythms. So he has to try and find a bit of time. Just a little bit though, it's not a lot. Plev's currently in 5th place, up on his time, up by a 1/10 of a second. So already he's gained a place, so if he matches his Sector 2 and Sector 3 times, of course. Onto the old pitch straight, heading towards Cops Corner, 50 metre board turn in, hit the curve, hit the other curve, beautiful, well done. Heading up towards Maggots and Beckett's, 8th gear, flat out. down to 7th, down to 6th. Oh! Had a bit of a sideways moment, and that will cost him. I think he'll come into the pits. I think that's a smart thing to do. There's no need to push on. And no, he's going to come in. Just... Oh, he's going to reset, actually. Interesting. I thought you'd just come in, put on a fresh shirt. Just wait until about 2 minutes left in the session. But no, he's going to have another crack. Have a look at the beginning of the circuit. Abbey in turn 2. Turn 2 is the only corner that isn't named. Unbelievably. Into Village. And into the loop. He'll use second gear at the apex. Short shift. There we go. Short shifting, very important. Using those higher gears to minimize wheel spin. You get better exit out of the corners. Heading up towards Brooklands. 5th gear. Then a sort of awkward line into turn 7. I think he took that a little bit too narrow on the entry. It compromises the exit a little bit. And a bit of the mid-corner speed as well. But regardless, the run at the moment is clean. Through Cops. Very nicely done. And again, through Maggots and Beckett's. Left, right. Dab on the brakes, turning right. Dab on the brakes again, down into 6th gear. Fantastic exit, and he's up by 2.5 tenths of a second. So he's aiming at about a 24.4, which will put him P4. Heading through Stowe, 6th gear. Gets a nice exit, and then into Vale. Try and get as good an exit as he possibly can. Oh, a bit too greedy on the throttle though. He needed to get a good exit to really tie off what was a beautiful lap, but he got too greedy. Just a little bit too greedy. So you'll come around, just park it into the pits, put on a fresh set, and go out with about 2 minutes to go. But that was a good lap up until that point. KD, the American in the racing point, coming through turn 3 and into turn 4. He's got a bit of traffic in front. That's Plebs. Through Aintree, DRS open, so he gets a sneaky little toe, and he's up only just so, 1/100th of a second up, through Luffield. He's got G4 Stray in front, he pulls off to the side, keeps to the right hand side, does KD, minimise distance, then through Cops, 50 metre board turn in a little too early. You can see him turn in, then turn in again. After he realised he just turned in a bit too early. Oh, missing the apex. Through Chapel, very easy to do. Particularly if you're on a controller, and look at that, 3 tenths down. So I bet he'll be coming into the pits. Gran in the Red Bull. Currently P10 with a 24.8. By the way, 1 second separating first all the way down to 14th. Not bad. Had a feeling it was going to be close. These guys have not disappointed me. Favourite to win today? Depends. And the only thing it depends on is the weather, I feel. And I'm guessing it's going to be ACW or Izzat Kush. If it rains, Izzat is going to win. If it stays dry, I would say ACW has a fair shot at winning. Those two drivers are very, very fast. They're very consistent as well. But Izzat has this uncanny ability in the wet. He can just find pace that no one else can when the conditions get tricky. So... again, I haven't got a weather report, so I don't quite know what the weather's going to be like. But that will ultimately be the deciding factor. ACW has some ridiculous pace in the dry. But in the wet conditions, Izzat can just go to another level. Got some outside chances as well if something happens at the front. Rhythms is looking fantastic in P3. A very nice place for him to be in. ACSC has gotten a few podiums that I've noticed, the Frenchman, including one at Circuit Paul Ricard, which would have been a nice moment for him. So he's on for a potential podium as well. But again, you've got so much talent up and down the field, you almost can't count anyone out, really. As ACW begins his final flying lap in qualifying here at Silverstone. And I can assure you, if this lap is clean, it's going to be very fast. Through the loop, heading towards Aintree. Turn 5, absolutely flat out, down the Wellington Straight. G-Force Dre has retired from the session. That is a very awkward way to crash. ACW is up by 1/10 of a second. What about Izzat? How much has he improved on his time? He's actually down. Interesting. So Izzat has got a lot of work to do in Sector 2 and 3. ACW through Cops Corner. Absolutely flat, no hint of a lift. Through Maggots and Beckett's. Absolutely flat, hitting the apexes, 7th gear, down to 6th gear. Gets on the throttle really early, using 5th. Interesting to get that extra rotation, and he's up by 1/10 and a half. This is going to be an awesome time. Can he get into the 23s? That would be a miracle, to be perfectly honest. Through Stowe, a bit of a messy entrance into there. It didn't look like he could take that at 100% speed. Looked like he had to back off a little bit. It's a 24.2. As I thought, he lost a fair amount of time at Stowe. Izzat's invalidated, so he can't improve. Can anyone knock off the pole sitter? Alex Parto in the AlphaTauri overshoots Vale a little bit. He's looking good. No, he must have made a mistake somewhere else. Oh no, he hasn't. That was it. That was the only mistake. It was at the Vale chicane, costing him a little bit of time. But it looks like ACW will qualify on pole position. Now, he'll be happy with pole. He won't be happy with that lap, because I reckon he had a lot more time underneath him, only improving by 1/2. As you notice through Stowe, it just didn't look right. It didn't look right at all. Looked like he had to have a second go at the apex. Had to use 5th gear as well, just to find that extra rotation. Also clipped the grass, I think, on the outside as well. That may have cost him a little bit of time as well. But there we go. That's qualifying done and dusted. And it's ACW on pole. Izzat Kush in P2. 0.08 of a second separating the two, with Rhythms in P3. He'll be happy with that. ACSC in P4. Alex Parto in P5. The Hairy Tomato P6. Pledge P7. LM15 P8, A Star Is Born P9, and KD rounding out the top 10, and all of them will be starting on the soft compound tyre. Mosball, High Contrast, G-Force Dre, Gran, Shuru, and Big Chich rounds out the other qualifiers. As we move on to the race, is it going to be raining? Is it going to be dry? What's the game got in store for us? Clear, with a hint of cloud cover, and we don't know what that cloud cover is going to do, so there might be rain. I'll have to have a look, see what's going on elsewhere. Get ready, gentlemen. I reckon this is going to be one amazing race. Very close the field is at this very racetrack. Very, very close indeed. So I imagine there's going to be some pretty good racing on offer. Some of the areas of the circuit that we have to keep an eye on is probably turn 6. That comes after the first DRS zone. And of course the second DRS zone coming after Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, heading onto the Hangar Straight. Those are the places where most of the overtaking is going to take place. Some of the other maybe parts of the circuit where we might see some overtaking, probably turns 3 and 4, the Loop and Village. if a driver can get a good run through these opening couple of corners, they might be able to set up a move here. The reason why I would recommend you don't do that is because if you overtake here, you give the guy you just overtook DRS down this straight. So yeah, just be careful when you're overtaking around there. Other than that, it's pretty much follow the leader stuff. So turn 6 definitely through Brooklands, and turn 15 Stowe. That's where most of the overtaking will most likely take place. Let's have a look at the tyre situation, because it's an interesting one. And as I thought, a lot of drivers outside the top 10 deciding to start on the medium tyre. So iContrast, GeForce Dre, Gran, Shiru and Big Chicks, P12 down to P16, all of them will be starting on the medium compound tyre. Mosball in P11 will be starting on the soft. Careful fellas, you're on the formation lap, just be careful. It might be a good idea for Mosball to do that. Theoretically speaking, the soft tyre should give the most amount of grip at the start. So the idea for him is to make up as many positions as he can now and just compensate later on. That's the philosophy of going on a soft tyre and being in the midfield like Mosball is. Who's that? Is that GeForce Dre? Spinning on the formation lap. Oh my word. So his tyres will be cooked for the start of this race, so he's going to get a shocking start. And that's why he's driving so slowly. Try and reduce the temperatures, because yeah, they'll be through the roof right now. So we just have to wait on Mr. Dre to line up into his grid slot, and we'll get the British Grand Prix underway. So here comes Dre lining up into his respective grid slots. The game will save, and we'll move on to the race itself. 26 laps here at Silverstone. 5 red lights, and it lights out, and away we go. And it looks like Izzat has got a fantastic start. He most certainly has. He leads into turn 1. It's 3 wide in the midfield going through turn 1, heading through turn 2. Now into Village, everyone looking good. Oh, contact there between the Williams and the Renault in the midfield, side by side through turn 4. Everyone just trying to sort themselves out, trying to get the start out of the way. That could have been nasty. When you have 2 cars side by side like that through a fast turn, if you hit the side pod of the car next to you, you will 100% spin out. So very, very lucky there to not make contact. Through Luffield. The midfield again just sorting themselves out. And there we go. We got the sort of lap 1 shenanigans out of the way. Oh, hang on. Side by side here, Harry Tomato and Plez through Cop's corner. Oh, and they sort themselves out nicely. Drivers have to remember this is lap 1. Oh, what's this in the background? Garan and Chich crashing out at Cops. You have to remember, fellas, there's 26 laps worth of racing. This race will not be dictated on the first lap. This isn't Monaco. Oh, and look at this, side by side, down the hanger straight. Plebs and Dre. Dre not getting as bad a start as I thought he would after spinning out. Here comes the Star is Born. Oh, he can't really get the move done. As the leaderboard proceeds to have a fit, for whatever reason. This leaderboard glitch needs to be fixed. What's going on up here? We got some battles, cars ghosting, 5-second penalty for Garan for speeding in the pits. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. So hopefully when the cars cross into the second sector, the leaderboard will fix itself. Hopefully. But look at that mini-map. The entire field bunched up like that. It's awesome to see. And there we go. I think the leaderboard has finally fixed itself. So, the leading 3 is Izzat Kush after a fantastic start. He absolutely nailed it. He's currently leading with ACW in P2 and Rhythms in P3. No one really jumping up the leaderboard. Let's see who's made up positions. LM15, Lachlan Murphy, he's up 2. KD's up 1. G4 Stray, the best start out of everyone, is up 3 positions. So not many people gaining off the start, but not many people losing off the start as well, as Dre makes a move on KD for 9th place. Oh, what's this? Oh, it's KD dives in. Interesting. Has he got damage? Surely not. Hang on. Oh, I can't ride outboard with him. Bugger. DRS is finally enabled. Lap 3 of 26. Mosball, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. And at the moment we've got a top 2 forming. Izzat and ACW. Then behind we got a battle for 3rd. Rhythms, ACSC, Alex Parto. All of them separated by about 0.8 of a second. Behind them, got Lachlan Murphy, you got Harry Tomato, Plebs. A 3-way battle for 6th. And look at there, side by side, Dre and A Star Is Born out of left field, heading towards Woodcote. We're right on board with Mosball. This will be a good view. Heading up towards Cops Corner. This is going to be messy unless someone pulls out, and Dre quite wisely pulls out, but gets a good run, and so does Mosball. But he backs out. You really don't want to try and make an overtake through here. So a very wise decision there from the McLaren driver. Oh, we might have a change in the lead here. Give me a minute. What's going on? Oh, very, very close. As ACSC overtakes Rhythms for 3rd place. ACW got close, but not quite close enough to make a move on Izzat. So, yeah, we've got a definite top 2 forming. We've got a battle for 3rd and a battle for 6th. And a battle for pretty much everyone else in behind. Got A Star Is Born, G4 Stray, Mosball in behind them is like Contrast, Shiru. And then these fellas, KD, Big Chich, Goran. Oh, is that Goran? It is, oh my word. Quite a violent sort of accident there. Whereabouts is that? This is on the infield. Deary me. A very, oh, and a 10-second time. Oh dear, oh dear. That'll get removed. He doesn't have to worry about that. I forgot to put up telemetry. Oh well, there it is there. You can see here from the map where the battles are taking place, and they'll rage on pretty much all the way through. Unless of course someone makes a mistake. That's what I mean about consistency earlier on. Consistency is a very big thing around here, because everyone is pretty quick around here. Outright pace will not win you. Oh, as Gran has retired from the somewhat understandably. When something like that happens to you, yeah, you really don't feel like participating after that point. Another 3-second time penalty there, dearie me. We're only 5 laps into this thing, and already penalties. You have to keep your nose clean. Oh, here we go, a battle for first. I thought this was close, and Plebs is going to take full advantage of it. Here comes LM, Harry Tomato around the outside. Chich has retired from the session in the pit lane. He's had enough. But a good bit of racecraft from Plebs, taking full advantage of the situation. As Rhythms, at the moment, under assault from Alex. And the Frenchman in front would be absolutely, because he's just pulling away from these two as they continue to battle. Heading through Maggots and Beckett's now. 6th gear, 5th gear. He'll try and get a launch. He's going to try and launch himself here. Use DRS. Doesn't use overtake, so he's going to sit in behind Alex for a little bit. Maybe not race him just yet. Just be patient. Just wait. And in fact, it seems the Frenchman has got some pace underneath him. He's catching up to the two in front. The gap is just over 1 second. Heading towards turn 3. He's not quite within a second at the DRS detection zone. Coming out of turn 4, third gear, fourth gear. You can see there with the yellow icon, he's running with pretty much even fuel. So he's running with a really light car. I wonder if that is the very thing giving him the advantage right now. Got a lighter car compared to the two in front. And a lighter car is just... It's better in almost every way having a lighter car. Less weight means better acceleration, better cornering, all that kind of stuff. So he is gaining. But he does have to worry about fuel, particularly towards the end. So at the moment he's doing a fantastic job. And it's now turned into a three-way fight for the lead. Because now he's got DRS. Fantastic. Looking behind. Got effectively... Look at that. All of them are almost within a second of each other. So LM15's got a penalty, a 3-second time penalty, as Alex comes into the pits. An undercut attempt? Probably. He's going to chuck on the medium tyres and go to the end. As Shiru has retired from the session. Okay. So he's going to jump onto a set of medium tyres, and those will carry him to the end of the race quite easily. Back towards the front. AC has lost a little bit of time, but he's still got DRS. He was within a second at the DRS detection zone. It's now just outside of a second. As the AI returns onto the racetrack, causing those yellow flags. He's now back within a second. A very intriguing battle, heading through Maggots and Beckett's. See how much time he gains. 8.5 tenths. And he loses a little bit of time on the exit. He stays within DRS range. No safety cars as of yet. So he might be having green flag running all the way through. But look at KD. Now this man pitted very early on. I wonder if he got wing damage or something like that as LM15 comes into the pits. But you can see how out of rhythm he is. And he also doesn't have DRS or any sort of slipstream. So all of his pace has to be generated by purely his own skill and also the condition of the tyre. Now he's on hards, which aren't the ideal tyre to be on. The time to the people around him, even though they're on older tyres, he's still going to be losing time. Simply because he doesn't have any DRS, he doesn't have any slipstream. See him here, he's going to come out behind of Lachlan. He will desperately need a safety car at some stage. As Mosball has made a mistake at Brooklands, and that brings him out of the DRS train that he was in. So I think it's probably a smart idea for this man to pit now. Get onto fresh tyres and try and push as hard as you can. No point staying on these tyres, absolutely no point at all. Top 3, any of them pit? ACW is. He's taking the initiative. As Ace, oh for goodness sake. A very clumsy mistake by ACW, though we've all done it, everyone here watching has done that. But he didn't need to do that. Did not need to do that at all, and it cost him. It'll cost him so much. Precisely what happened in the Americas tier that I commentated, where the two drivers battling for the lead One of them got a 5-second penalty for speeding, and it cost him the race win. I kid you not, it cost him a race win. So, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So, is he going to respond to ACW this lap? Pit in, put on a fresh set of medium tyres, or is he going to try and stretch these out for as long as he can? And what does AC do? Will he come in? Will he cover? Will he stay out? Let's see. Is that going in? Same with AC. So, oh, pull it up. Well done. They pulled it up. Didn't make the same mistake. Rhythms is in. Plebs is in. So G-Force Dre becomes your effective race leader. Harry Tomato stays out. Contrast stays out on those medium tyres. Now if I were the medium runners, I would definitely be pitting in at about lap 13. I wouldn't go any longer. Especially for drivers who aren't running assists like traction control and ABS. If you aren't running those assists, you tend to get significantly better tyre wear. So you can go to lap 13, put on the softs and go to the end. They will go the distance. And they don't drop off either. Even when they hit that sort of puncture territory range, the pace is still there. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see drivers pit in at about lap 13, those medium runners from the start of the race. And look at that, the undercut worked to perfection for ACW, but it absolutely means nothing as he has a 5-second penalty over his head for speeding in the pits. Oh dear. That's how painful penalties are around here. Right now, he needs to get his head down and set some ridiculously fast lap times. He needs to pull away from Izzat. He needs to first of all break DRS, then somehow build up a 5-second margin. It's a tall mountain to climb, but if qualifying proved anything, this is the man who can do that. Gap is 0.7 of a second. He needs to find 3 extra tenths somewhere. Ideally for ACW, Izzat needs to make a mistake. But Izzat looks pretty good at the moment. He looks in control. The gap is opening though. ACW not very keen on giving him a tow. Izzat doesn't seem to mind. Through Luffield, heading towards Woodcote. ACSC has lost a fair amount of time from the top 2. Not sure why. He pretty much came in behind Izzat on going into the pits, so yeah, a bit of a question mark why he's lost so much time. But he's still there. By himself at the moment. He's got a gap to the cars in front and a gap to the cars behind. Speaking of which, Alex, Rhythms, Plebs, battle on for P6. Alex, he's on 3-lap-old medium tyres. He undercut the lot. And he was in a battle. Who was he in a battle with? It was Rhythms. And he finds himself in front of the German. But for how long? Sector 3 yellow flags. That's the Star is Born. He's made a mistake at the exit of Stowe as the drivers proceed to drive through him. That's a massive blow. He was looking at points for tonight's race. He's now got a lot of work to do to get himself back into the top 10. Plebs, is he going to launch an attack here? I think he will. Rhythms is going to have a go here at turn 6 as Star is Born makes a mistake, but I'm going to stay with this. Don't think he's crashed out. He's just went off the circuit a little bit. Side by side, Alex and Rhythms. Alex gets in front. Rhythms just slots in behind, heading into Cop's corner. Bit of a lift there. Dirty air playing a massive part, particularly around the faster sections at this racetrack. You really do feel, oh, the Star is born. Deary me, those tyres will be absolutely shot to pieces. He just needs to keep it together. As Plebs is going to have a look around the outside. Oh, this is going to be interesting. 3 wide heading into Stowe, and they all spin out. All 3 of them. I have never seen such a thing in my life. What an extraordinary event. And here comes Lachlan Murphy. Comes through and takes 6th place. A triple overtake into Stowe. Unbelievable. All 3 of them gone in an instant. I have never, ever seen that in my entire Formula 1 career. That is simply extraordinary. All 3 of them gone like that. Unbelievable. 3 wide into Stowe. Something was bound to happen, and that's exactly what happened. Incredible. They would be absolutely furious too. Oh, all of those guys would be furious. Lachlan would be absolutely cheering, although he has lost a position back to Rhythms. He drops down to P7, but he doesn't care. He's just got 2 free positions. Oh, as he has a bit of a moment at Cop's corner. So, Izzat's got 3 seconds. Okay, does he really? I better have a look. Because those 2... So, ACW, we know he got the 5 seconds. Izzat? Yeah, he did. You're absolutely right. On lap 11. As we got some side-by-side action in the background. Oh, hello! What's this? That was a poor camera angle, Codemasters. I had to use the onboard, and that didn't really show me much either. But we now got a 3-way fight for 6th place again. This time, it's LM15, Rhythms, and the Hairy Tomato. Rhythms gets a 3-second time penalty, cutting turn 1 a little bit too much. But wowee. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that incident at Stowe. That was something else. No one wanted to give in that situation. No one really wanted to give. And they all just spun out. Oh, Alex has retired. Oh, that's... I think the Italian would be furious about what happened there. He was on the outside, if I remember correctly. I feel like he more or less spun out because the 2 in front, or 2 inside of him spun out. I might have to look at that again. That was unbelievable. Through Maggots and Beckett's. Rhythms is right up the gearbox of LM15, coming out of Chapel, down the Wellington Straight. Not the Wellington, the Hangar Straight, heading into Stowe. He's not close enough to make a move. He's just going to be cautious, just going to hang back. Oh, but gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. My word. As Izzat's now in front of ACW. ACW does not need that at all. So it seems Izzat's got some really good pace, race pace, here at Silverstone. Down the inside into turn 3. Goes Rhythms. Can LM15 counter attack? No, he can't. Can the Hairy Tomato do anything? Not quite just yet. As hello, what are you doing? At Chapel. And you have gone to a place I haven't really explored on this racetrack. It's a bit different. Oh, there's a... Oh, that's the short circuit just there. Oh, easy. Easy. There we go. 2 in front still battling Contrast and Dre. Dre pulls into the pits for his one and only stop and gets a 5-second penalty. Deary me. so the effective top two still battling it out. The Frenchman now 3.3 seconds behind. Unfortunately, I feel like he can't really challenge for the lead, but he's in a comfortable P3 right now, once Contrast comes in for his pit stop. Now Dre will come out in front of the battle for 6. That's how much time Rhythms, Plebs, and of course Alex lost during that incident at Stowe. He will come out in 5th in completely clear air. So AC, even though he's got 12.1 seconds to G-Force Dre has got clear air, a light car with fresh, soft compound tyres that can go to the end. His P3 isn't quite secure just yet. It will also be interesting to see what iContrast can do, as Lachlan gets another 3-second time penalty. He'll be coming in this lap, I'm certain. Hopefully. Yeah, there we go. He's going to come in. Come on, hit your marks, don't speed into the pits. And he doesn't. Thank goodness. He'll be putting on soft compound tyres and going to the end as well. Now, Dre got an undercut on Contrast. So, Contrast is bound to be in between G-Force Dre and Rhythms when he comes out of the pits. But will he be overtaken as Izzat sets a new fastest lap? So there's Contract. You can see that green dot still in the pits. Will he come out? Bound to be in between Dre and Rhythms. Here we go. He's coming out now. And there we go. Perfect. He's not behind Rhythms. That is critical for his assault. For not only 4th place, but potentially 3rd. He doesn't have a 5-second penalty, and he's on fresher tyres than both Dre and ACSC. So, if he can nail these final couple of laps, he's looking good. We also have to keep an eye on the gap between 4th and 3rd, and see whether or not that final podium place is actually up with these two. Back to these two. It seems, I'm not sure what's ACW's game plan right now. Is he going absolutely all out, or is he just conserving and waiting patiently? Because at the moment, I'm not quite sure. He's got less ERS than Izzat, even though ACW has got DRS. So theoretically, he should be able to save up a little bit more than Izzat. So even with DRS, he's still having to push quite a bit to keep up. As what says this is an accident, it's LM15, he's made a mistake. Caught a bit of a lucky break with the accident at Stowe, then has an incident himself. Not sure if he was helped or if he did it just by himself. As he'll come in to the pits and retires from the session, so we're only looking at 11 finishes tonight. But imagine if these two didn't have time penalties. I would be seriously intrigued in this battle, but effectively Izzat has already got a 2-second advantage over ACW. And he hasn't got any more warnings after his penalties, so it's looking good at the moment. So the gap is closing, but not at the rate that I thought it would. It's only 10.1. They've gained about a second-ish. I think Contrast wants to get by here. Coming down the hanger straight, heading towards Stowe. It's a very easy move, and he slots himself into P4. Now, can he launch a charge on the Frenchman? With 8 laps to go, he effectively has to claw in about 1.1 seconds a lap-ish, and sets a new fastest lap with a 26.8. The Contrast is definitely flying. Gap is slowly closing. Oh, hello. The gap really, really closed between these two. You can see that Izzat is doing a fantastic job. He's leading, and he's saved up more ERS than ACW. So he's got a lot of resources on his side for the end of the race. ACW's got a fair amount as well, but nowhere near as much as Izzat. So it's not looking good for the Williams at the moment, and the clouds are coming. It's a lot more overcast than what it was at the beginning of the race. So the track temps are reducing, first of all, and there might be a chance of rain. We might see some rain droplets towards the end. You never know with this game. But the gap has closed up as well between third and fourth, but only by 0.4 of a second. Those medium tyres are still doing a fantastic job. And I don't think AC has gotten a penalty either. Could be wrong. Not yet. So the Frenchman, although he's in P3, so long as he doesn't get a penalty, then he might be up for a race win potentially. He's only 3.6 seconds behind. Izzat's got 3 seconds. ACW has 5. It's not quite over just yet, is it? It's not just a battle between the top 2 and third place all by himself. He still has a role to play in this, particularly if the top 2 really start to scrap, which I imagine they most definitely would. When they cross the line, they'll have 6 laps to go. So I think these two are going to absolutely give it everything, try and get that race win. As KD has made a mistake at the exit of Luffield. Fortunately, he hasn't caused a safety car, but he finds himself in 10th place. He's going to come home to try and score 1 single point. 1 point's a hell of a lot more than none, I can tell you that. And the Star is Born soldiering on. I have a lot of respect for drivers who do this. Just don't give up. Just keep going. You never know. You never know. It's always good to stay in control of the car for as long as you can. The AI have the IQ of a walnut. So as soon as you let that thing take control, it just creates a massive mess. As hello, here we go. So, with 6 laps to go, the battle for the lead is on. ACW finally launching an attack on the Alfa Romeo into Cop's corner, and he backs out wisely. Probably didn't need to back out as much as he did. He has lost a fair amount of time. Through Maggots and Beckett's. Now into Chapel. 5th gear. Dirty Air playing its part. Opens DRS. Does he use overtake? He most certainly does. He's right in behind. He goes to the inside. Takes the position at Stowe. He moves himself into the lead. Now what does Izzat do? Does he counter-attack into Vale? He most certainly does. And he actually pulled out of the move. He's going to stay in behind ACW. And the gap has closed. It's now under 3 seconds between 2nd and 3rd place. So the Frenchman, he'll be absolutely loving this. With the 2 drivers out in front really scrapping, they're just going to lose time. And that brings this guy into play, so long as he doesn't get a penalty. It's all about consistency, hitting your marks. And that's what he has to do right now. Is he going to launch an attack? No, he's not. I reckon he's going to wait. He's not going to battle with him right now. There's still a few laps left. So I think he'll just use DRS. He'll just stay in behind, wait with about 2 or so laps to go, and then launch an attack. And I'm sure Izzat knows that ACW has a 5-second penalty. Oh, a bit of a mistake though at Cops. And that's the other thing. If one of these guys slip up, have a spin, break a wing somehow, Their race is done. Their chance for the win, gone. As Izzat's launching, he's got look at the power of the DRS, huh? Miles behind. Miles behind coming through Chapel. Right behind his gearbox heading into Stowe. That's how ridiculous DRS is in this game. Oh, well, in Formula 1 generally, to be perfectly honest. Elsewhere, battle for P4 is still on. I'll have a look at penalties between these two. High contrast, he's got 2 warnings, but that's it, he's been a good boy. Dre has not been a good boy. 1, 2, 11 seconds next to his name, dear oh dear. Rhythms, he's got 6 seconds. Plebs, he's got 3 warnings but no penalty. Harry Tomato has got 3 seconds. Mosball, I think 5 seconds. Oh, with the invalidated lap time, I think that's a 5-second penalty. I think. I could be wrong. So for some of these guys, penalties will shape out the race for them. Especially Rhythms with his 6 seconds. He'll lose out to Plebs and the Harry Tomato. So he's looking at about 8th place for the German. Izzat closer again, uses DRS, bit of slipstream, doesn't gain anywhere near as much as what he did on the previous lap, but again I think he's just going to settle down and just wait. ACW, he's tried to break away. You can see from how much ERS he has right now, he tried to break away and he just hasn't been able to do so. Tries to break a bit of the toe. The gap is 0.4 of a second. Not battling. AC, he's lost a fair amount of time. Hasn't really been, he's been consistent, but so have the 2 in front. They haven't really scrapped. So unfortunately for AC, I think his chance for 2nd place just might be over. Oh, but ACW gets a fantastic run heading out of Luffield. But is that using a bit of overtake? It's actually gained on the Williams. Gained a fair amount. Ooh, hang on. These guys are still having a fair old scrap. But again, penalties will ultimately sort that out. Star is Born, new fastest lap. So he takes that away from everyone else. He's going to try and make sure nobody else gets it. And Izzat, again close, but he doesn't launch an attack. Now, race director, let's have a look at Izzat. How many extra warnings has he got now? He has none. So I don't think there is any chance of Izzat getting a 3-second time penalty, an additional 3-second time penalty. Is that right? It is! It's raining! I thought it was dark, and I suggested it might, and hey, it's come true. So that adds a little bit of extra spice to the end of this race. Wet weather conditions. Now I mentioned one corner in particular, in wet conditions that becomes an absolute nightmare. And it's the corner that these two are coming up to now. Copse Corner. How much of a lift are these guys going to take through here? A little bit. In qualifying they were hitting about 305 kilometers an hour. They're taking it at 290 now. Oh, and a little bit of a moment for Izzat. As I mentioned as well, Izzat seems to be somewhat of a master in these conditions as he's going to launch an attack around the outside, heading into Stowe. Can he keep it there? He will most certainly try. He pushes him off the circuit, but to absolutely no avail. ACW will lose the lead of this race with 1 lap to go. Now, can he keep up with the Alfa Romeo? Can he try and challenge him at all? That 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits has cost ACW massively. If he didn't have that, he'd be on for a race win. But because of that small error, that tiny, little, seemingly insignificant error, I don't think he will win this race unless Izzat has a moment. It's been a superlative drive from these two, outclassing the field, clean, consistent, very few mistakes, but those mistakes has cost this man. And it could have cost Izzat as well. If ACW didn't get that 5-second penalty in the pits, he would be only getting second here tonight. But with that one tiny mistake, he will cling on to victory, heading up towards Stowe for the final time. With the rain getting heavier, it's only 3 corners now into Vale. Bit of a lock-up, but he gets through it relatively okay, through the final corner and across the line. Izzat Kush wins the British Grand Prix. ACW will come home in second. The Frenchman ACSC in the Renault will come home in third. Contrast will come home in 4th place with GeForce Dre. I think he's going to lose out to Plevs. I think he's going to drop down to 6th. Potentially 7th even. There we go. Yeah, oh, not quite. So Dre will hang on to 6th place. The Harry Tomato finishes in 7th. Rhythms will finish in 8th. Mosball will cross the line in 9th place with KD rounding out the top 10. But there we go. Star is born. We'll just wait for him to cross the line. Soldiering on. I have a lot of respect for drivers who do this. I really do. Keep fighting. Don't just retire. Just keep going. But a fine race. And with those penalties, ACSC was only half a tenth behind ACW. Oh, sorry, half a second behind ACW, not half a tenth, half a second. 5/10 of a second. Very fair. High contrast, driver of the day. One of the drivers who started outside the top 10 comes home to finish in 4th. But a fine performance from Izzat Kush, a magnificent start, has to be said. ACW, again, in qualifying, showing supreme pace. But unfortunately, the best he can do for tonight's race is second. And the Frenchman, ACSC, a very clean, consistent performance, and he finds himself in 3rd. High contrast from 12th up to 4th. That's a very deserving title with driver of the day. Up 8 positions. Very well done from him. Plevs in P5. GeForce Dre from 13th up to 6th, an equally superb performance from him. The Harry Tomato in 7th. Rhythms might be a bit disappointed with how his race turned out. After qualifying so well to finish in 8th, he'll know there was a lot of room for improvement, I feel. Especially with that incident at Stowe. Dearie me, that is the oddest incident I think I've ever seen in an F1 race ever. Mosball in 9th and KD rounding out the top 10, with the Star is Born being the final finisher. What a race. A very nice race. And if those two in front didn't have penalties, this would have been an absolute banger. But of course, penalties ultimately dictated everything. But it really just shows you, not just in Formula 1, but in motorsport and sport in general, even the smallest mistakes can be incredibly costly. I think ACW will learn from this for sure. You can't be making those small mistakes because it ultimately cost him a race win. But a fine race here at Silverstone, as it always is. Virtual world, real life, whatever era, this racetrack just delivers in spades. It just does. It's, you know, when I was younger, a little bit younger, I was not a massive fan of Silverstone. I really wasn't. But the more I got to know the racetrack as a commentator and as a driver, I start to understand why everybody likes this racetrack, and it's proven tonight again why this racetrack is just quite simply one of the best. But that will end, I think, round 9 of the PS4 Tier 2 Elite Series here on Race Spec Esports. A superb drive from this man, Isaac Kush, claiming victory by 2.5 seconds over pole sitter ACW, then ACSC, the Frenchman in the Renault in P3. But we'll move on to next week, round 10 of the championship. We are going to the Hungaroring for the Hungarian Grand Prix, a racetrack. It's got a little bit of everything: high speed, medium speed, low speed corners, few long straights, some good overtaking zones at turns 1 and 2, and some quite technical parts of the racetrack in sector 2 as well. Really fast, really flowing, quite demanding as well. And it's also a bit scary in wet conditions as well, particularly turn 4 and 5. Special mention actually to turn 5. Be interesting to see whether that auto spin curb on the inside is still there from 2019. I remember that corner used to be quite notorious. If you hit that inside curb, instant spin out, no warning, just instantly spin out. So next week should be quite interesting, and hopefully Curving will be back for that, because this is very entertaining to watch. I'm sure he enjoys it a lot. He just couldn't be with us tonight, so I just filled in. But until next week, I've been the Smeg. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you in Budapest for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Until then, good night.